I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and I'm being joined by several people associated with documentaries hoping to be nominated at this year's Emmy Awards, including James Gay-Rees, the executive producer of 1971, The Year That Music Changed Everything; Hao Wu, one of the co-directors of 76 Days; Madison Hamburg, the director of Murder on Middle Beach; Ellen Kuras, the cinematographer for Pretend It's a City; and Wendy Williams, the executive producer of Wendy Williams, What a Mess. The first question I want to put to you, Madison, and then once he's done, anyone else can jump in and give their answer. What were the influential documentaries that made you either, love the documentary genre, or in your case, made you want to get into making nonfiction films?
That's a great question. I don't know if I could name specific documentaries, but I would say all of Frederick Weissman's work, Steve James. I mean, one documentary series that really changed the way that I look at documentaries was The Staircase, because it was completely verite based, in the crime genre. Yeah, I mean, I think like initially there's like classics like Thin Blue Line and I don't know, Grey Gardens. I guess that's Weissman, but I think like I've really grown in an affinity for verite documentaries, verite driven documentaries, everything that Time Quinn puts out. When I was preparing, when I partnered with HBO, I watched like a documentary every single day leading up to moving to New York and like continuing working on this project, because I felt like a complete imposter. And I was looking for point of view, first person point of view documentaries. So like This Sentence by Rudy Valdez or Minding the Gap, or were like a couple really influential ones for me, because it really balanced the voice of the perspective and of the storyteller in a way that didn't feel performative or like scripted, for lack of a better word.
Well, I can tell you that Tina Turner's documentary did it for me, and Aretha Franklin. I really can't think of too much other than that, because I've just seen those, they're on right now. But for me, doing my documentary, I compared it to no one else's, because I knew that I was going to give it for real, with no holding back. And I knew I wouldn't be embarrassed, and I knew that my family would come back and love me anyway.
I mean, I was never really, in the very beginning, I mean, we're talking back in the early 80s, I was looking at drama, actually. When I look at, thinking about documentaries, I was looking at Costa Gavras films, The Battle of Algiers, which was, seems like a documentary, but it was very much a drama. And just being influenced by all of those films and how they approached, documentary format. So I mean, what you're saying, Madison, is really so apropos to the point of view, and the point of view is so key in documentaries and so key also in dramatic films. And so it's like taking the elements of dramatic film and trying to put them into documentary and shape them and find where they intersect has always been part of my thing. And I've always, of course, looked at Errol Morris's work for a long time and worked with him also. In trying to conceptualize how you shoot documentary, how do you, what's the point of view and who's the person speaking?
The best documentaries come from the person's point of view. That is the only way you'll get it correct. You can't have somebody else write it for you. Just my opinion.
I mean, yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, we sort of coined this phrase when we were making Senna. We were trying to make a factual drama almost, and there were two movies that really had a massive effect on me when I was coming through the sort of, the early stages of the film business growing up. And first it was When We Were Kings, just left such a massive mark on me. I know it's a much loved film, but it just, but it was just so off the moment, but just so epic. And again, just such a fantastic drama. And then Touching the Void, I think, was an incredible piece of work for me, just because it just proved what a documentary could be, with the reconstruction and, a documentary about two guys on the side of a mountain, with no footage, very little footage. So it was just those two really made a difference to me as pieces of film.
Yeah, for me personally, when I first started making documentaries, I was really into competition docs. So Spellbound was a classic for me. It's just so adorable. It's such a nice way to use a competition to tell a cross-section of American society. And I think everybody already mentioned many other names, but another documentary that's been really influential for me was Michael Apted 7 Up series. It's just the commitment to spend so many years following a group of kids as they grow up, and just the power of documentary to see to observe human life and to let you think and reflect.
So this next question, I want to start with you, Hao, because we live in such a strange time, to put it mildly, where it seems like truth, whatever the real truth is, there's always like a counter narrative that's promoting itself. And I'm just curious as to how do you feel about how you're about trying to tell truthful stories in a time when there is so much untruth out there?
I think in some ways, obviously there's journalistic truth, but at the same time, I think a lot of the truth is pretty subjective. How you tell the truth is really up to the storyteller or up to the artist. For me personally, I give myself the goal of trying to bridge the political divide, so to speak, and trying to reach across the aisle to tell both sides. So in all of my films, I actually consciously shy away from political commentaries or including too much news commentaries in my film. I'm the kind of filmmaker who really value verite, even though the verite scenes are told through my own perspective, my understanding of what the scene's about. But at the same time, I believe in the power of evoking emotions, because I feel like let's not spoon feed our audience what they should be thinking. Let's move them, stimulate them, and let them draw their own conclusions.
That's what I liked about doing my own documentary, is because I'm still on TV and I'm still relative to pop culture, and because I'm still somebody that people can turn on every day, warts and all, here I am. I've told you my truth. And I got no one's permission except my son. I said, do you want to be in or not? He says, no. I said, okay. I said, all right. I said, there are going to be a few pictures of you, though. You, me and your father, but nothing weird. And so he says, okay, Mom, as long as you're happy, as long as it's going to be good. I said, it's going to be good. But I like the idea of doing a documentary while you're still relevant. A 90-year-old telling a documentary about the heyday when she was 50 and 60 it's a nice story, but can we please talk relevancy?
Anyone else?
I'd like to say something. I think that films are empathy machines, where a lot of times, especially with how polarized our country is, there's a lot of time spent on kind of screaming subject matters into the void and, really topical issues, where a film and a documentary gives you space to generate empathy with the people affected by those issues. So when I set out to do a documentary, the story always revolves around the characters and what they've been through. If you want to change someone's mind, allow them to see themselves in the characters that you're putting on screen. And so it's like incredibly humbling. And in terms of truth, as a family member of a murdered loved one and watching the 24-hour news cycle sort of spin my mom's story to continue to get as many views as they could, my dad was, sort of outcasted from my family and in the media sort of, put up as the most likely suspect. And my documentary was an opportunity to get my dad's sort of side of that and actually get the truth, right? And a lot of times the truth is really hard to hear and come to terms with. And I think that my series was a way of sort of navigating the acceptance of the inevitable loss that I would feel when one day, you know, I found out that possibly someone I love, killed my mom.
Hey, Madison. Hi, it's Wendy. Are you related to
Hi, Wendy.
Joan Hamburg of New York?
No, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, no. Because she has a son, and he's this documentary maker. And I hear
wow.
She's local radio. Charles, we were talking about local radio. Joan is one of my heroes. She's on here in New York, and I adore her. And she's an older doll. She loves dinner parties and things like that. And she and her husband are very much in love. But when I heard you mention death, I said, oh, well, maybe that wasn't her first husband. But anyway, just asking.
No, just a coincidence.
Yeah.
You know, with Fran, you know, that's her thing about telling the truth. She just tells it from her own experience. I mean, I happen to know that someone asked her to be interviewed for something else in the 50s. And she says, you know, I can't do that. I was a child in the 50s. I had no experience in the 50s. You know, I don't know that. So, you know, with Pretend It's a City, I mean, that's the thing about Fran is that, you know, she's able to, you know, contribute her experience and her insights, and we all can connect with that. You know, it becomes a universal experience. And that's what becomes relevant about Fran, you know, and what she's able to do is that, you know, we could live in anywhere in the world and you can still identify with what she's talking about. You know, it's sort of like you realize right in the beginning, it's like, look at your life in plain sight in front of you. You're missing it, everybody. You know, you're on your phones and, you know, you're missing what's in front of you, what's on the street. So, you know, I mean, that in that way, documentary is so special because it really brings us to, you know, this realness, this person, this point of view, which is so unique.
And if you're doing it about yourself, it brings you to your knees.
Yeah.
And then you get up. And then you get up and you say, yeah, like you don't know somebody who's been through this or that.
This last question I just want to give to you, James. You know, making documentaries can take, or being a part of them it can take a lot out of you. And I'm curious as to how do you try to maintain your sanity while, you know, being a part of something where you're usually giving so much of yourself to that kind of project?
Yes, it's a good question, actually, because they all have enormously different challenges, but they all do have challenges. There's no doubt. I mean, you know, 71 was just a vast undertaking trying to work out how to tell this, you know, the story of this year in a fresh and engaging way. So that was, you know, intellectually very difficult. And then, you know, when we were making Amy, you know, and it relates to the, you know, the sort of nature of truth we were just talking about, you know, one of the people that asked us to make that film was Amy's dad. And, you know, it became pretty evident to us during the course of making that.
It was very good.
Oh, thank you very much. Mm-hmm. But he was part of the problem, right? So, you know, when you get into somebody's life like that, and it's such a mess, and you're trying to work out why it was such a mess, and you know how it influenced her art and everything else, and you realize that, you know, one of the people who are involved within this process is a major part of the problem. Then it's, you know, then you sort of think, okay, I've got a responsibility to tell the truth, no matter how unpalatable that's going to be to certain people, or I can just go down the easy path. And obviously, you know, going down the easy path is not an option. But it was, you know, screening that film to him for the first time was an interesting experience. You know, he threw his phone at the screen after 10 minutes and tried to beat us up. You know, and it was a crazy experience, and that wasn't even the bad bit. But so yeah, it was, you know, there were points in that film where we thought, what have we got ourselves into here? Because this is such a challenging and dark, sad story. And how can we possibly make something that's going to, you know, going to give anybody any sort of, you know, grounds for hope? But actually, I think maybe we didn't, because at least we managed to sort of reboot her legacy. And, you know, she was this tabloid monster, and actually we kind of stripped that away and kind of revealed the human being behind it, hopefully. Yeah, it is difficult. But then the funny thing about the human condition is that you go through these processes, and then as soon as you're out the other side, you're rebuilt and you're reset and you're ready to go again. You know,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't think you can carry them with you for very long, you know, because there's a different challenge every day, isn't there? You know.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, that impulse to tell the stories. You know what I mean? Because I mean, that's a difference between documentary, I think, and you know, and doing narrative, is that you are personally attached to those people. I mean, they're real people and they have real lives. And like Madison, it's your real life. And you can't just make the film and walk away. There's a lifelong connection that continues on there with all of those people. I'm sure how, you know, when you were dealing with the doctors there, you know, in the film, you know, it's like everybody has this hope of being able to get the message out there. You know, we want the story to be told, and it becomes a kind of a collective kind of desire, a collective commitment and challenge, you know. And so, you know, in that way, documentary is really kind of special. It takes special people to make documentaries, you know, because of that commitment. And we know that people's lives are at stake, and it's about trying to get our finger on the human condition, you know, and that's what, you know.
One of the things that I did, though, one of the things that I did in doing mine is, you know, Lifetime was really kind to my schedule in getting in contact with people. You know, they'd say, you know, who do you want? They'd write real quick, like a stenographer. Who do you want? Who do you want? I'm like, I don't know anybody who's going to talk. Like, I want people who are going to talk real. Don't just say good, and don't lie. I want everyone who's on it to talk real. And that includes my great deceased mother, who talked about fat shaming me. Well, Wendy ate a lot of mashed potatoes. You know, my father, my siblings, but then I have my bosses here and coworkers here and people around me. And what I tried to, and I reached out to just about everyone on the list, if not everyone on the list. I did myself, apart from Lifetime, on my own cell phone in my own time, to say, hi, you're about to get a call from Lifetime. And if they haven't called you yet, and some people would say, no, we haven't gotten a call. All right, well, when they call you, I want you to be honest. You knew me through some bad times, but you're still here to witness the good times. And I want you to talk about everything, answer all their questions, and don't be shy. There is nothing you could say that could hurt me at this particular point in my life. I want this story told accurately. So, you know, when you've got your bosses and your coworkers, who, Charles, I was telling you, they're now still here, but you know, they had to talk, you know, and you've got people talking. It's really something else. But you have to call them ahead of time and say, look, it's Wendy. Get to talking.
And Wendy, did you have final cut on the film?
On the film, I had final cut-ish on the film, honestly, you know, because we've been so, well, the documentary, is that what you're speaking of, the documentary? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Final cut on the documentary. The movie, I didn't have final cut on. It was a collaborative effort because so much was going on to prepare for stuff going on around here with the show and all kinds of other stuff. But no, I had final cut on the documentary. I hated that it started off with me crying so much, because the documentary started at a very, very vulnerable stage in my life where, you know, I was living in my new place. I'd filed the divorce. I was still hating, you know, you go through hate and then you get over it. I don't hate him, you know, just disappointed. But there was too much crying in the opening scene on that couch. If there's one thing I could change, is too much crying in the apartment on the cow couch. Because I don't feel that way
anymore. Always things we can change in our films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, I feel bad for him.
I think that I was in a pretty unique position in this group with the weight of that the documentary had on me. Well, besides Wendy, obviously, But releasing, my dad didn't know about the documentary when I was making it, and a lot of people didn't know. It was sort of like a double life. For some reason, I had this weird shame attached to the fact that my mom was murdered, so I didn't tell anybody, and because I didn't want it to define me. And so the documentary was sort of a way to define it and its impact on my life, and and
were they mad at you?
My family?
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't spoken to my dad since the documentary came out, but I did family screenings with my family a month before it came out, which was sort of mandatory for me, because when they were about to be re-traumatized, whether or not they liked or disliked how they were portrayed in the documentary, it's a intense trauma to find out that, your sister, your niece, your mother was found brutally murdered, and they were about to relive that as the documentary came back out. So like, I definitely second, like, there's so much weight behind the people that are in the documentary and the questions that you ask them. And in terms of like holding it together, I agree, like it's totally the people around you. When my mom died, I didn't have a relationship with my dad. So like I started turning to like mentors and surrogate parents. And like, that's just something I've always done, however annoying it is to the people that I call when I'm freaking out. But everyone my producer and best friend from college is still my producer. And to everybody that we interviewed for the series, the question I always ask is, why are you in the film industry? And because it doesn't matter how technically skilled they are, I want to bring their lived experience to the project and make sure that they care about what we're doing. And that honestly is what saves my ass.
How old are you?
I'm sorry. I just turned 30.
Because you've got a great head of hair, but you've got the wisdom and you've been through enough. Like, I'm like, is he 40? Is he 30? Is he 25? I have no idea.
I had to grow up pretty quick when my mom died.
I see.
There's like a lot of responsibility I had to start undertaking. But yeah, I think in terms of holding it together, it was the team that I surrounded myself with that wasn't just there to transcode the footage, but also relate about their lived experience at, some odd hour of night when we were delivering to the network,
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
what else, Charles?
I'm sorry, we have to kind of cut this off.
I'm about to ask Madison, what did he serve to eat at his watch party? But I don't want to even go there.
Oh, we had to do it via Zoom because of the pandemic.
Okay. So, well, me and Charles are going for Mexican food and corn dogs.
Okay.
And no, but
I'm on the next to Acela right up there. Yeah, that's the train. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. This was such a fantastic panel. We wish you all the best over this Emmy season. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Great meeting you all.